All right, guys, welcome back. And with this one, we are going to cover the Cardinals versus the Rams. Cardinals went into Los Angeles and got beat 26-9. It was interesting, though, because in the first half of this game, the Cardinals were really controlling it, mostly on the defensive side of the ball. They couldn't really get anything done on offense. I think it was like 6-0 for a lot of the first half. But the Cardinals would get into the red zone and kind of just falter, as you could tell by the points. They only scored 3 field goals. Um, Josh Dobbs had another mediocre day. I mean, he has kind of returned to that area of what we expect from a backup quarterback. And he threw the ball 41 times, but completed 21, 235 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick. Ran the ball 7 times for 47 yards and fumbled once, leaving him with 11.1 fantasy points. I mean, we know what we're going to get with this Cardinals offense at this point. I think with a lot of teams, we're kind of figuring out exactly who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And for the Cardinals, a big part of their offense is James Conner. And I think it went to show with the 2 backup running backs, DeMercado and Ingram. Both of them got outrushed by the quarterback.
Yeah.
So without James Conner in there, this offense is really lacking. And I mean, Ingram had 10 attempts for 40 yards, 2 catches for 11, gave you 7.1 in a PPR format. He only played 37% of snaps. DeMercado actually played 43%, but only had 2 attempts for 11 yards and 1 catch for 6 yards on that usage. So that was very disappointing, considering he was like one of the top waiver wire guys after his performance last week. And yeah, the Cardinals, just without James Conner, I don't think their running game is going to be very effective. It looks like Dobbs is going to end up running the ball a lot more, and he's capable. He's had like multiple games over 20 rushing yards, which is pretty good for a quarterback. Marquise Brown had a pretty silent game. He played 89% of the snaps, got 11 targets, but only brought in 4 of them for 34 yards, giving you 7.4 PPR points. I mean, not every week is going to be a good week on this Cardinals offense, especially while Kyler Murray is not out there. But 11 targets, I mean, he is the number 1 there. He is going to get all the targets. And if he could bring in more than 4, you're probably going to have a pretty good game.
Yeah.
So I'm not really worried about Marquise, especially when his down week is 7.4, given that we got 4.9 from Devontae Adams. And, you know, it's going to be rough. Not every week is going to be a big blow up week for every guy. We know this, but it just is what it is. Michael Wilson came back out of hiding this week. Only got 4 targets, caught 3 of them for 62 yards, giving him 9.2 PPR points. He played 88% of the snaps, and I think it's fairly solidified now that he is the wide receiver 2 in that room. Rondale Moore is kind of the 3, the gadget guy like I talked about. And he went 4 for 7 for 30 yards, had 3 rushing attempts for -4 yards, leaving him at 6.6. And I mean, Rondale Moore is kind of, he's going to get rushes. He's going to get maybe a few targets a game. I'm not necessarily that interested in him, because if he's not like the past few games we've seen taking those end arounds for like 30, 40 yards, this is kind of what he's going to end up with, if that. And we saw another disappointing week from Zach Ertz. He didn't finish with a touchdown this week and only got 5 targets that he caught 2 of them for 22 yards, 4.2. I mean, he only played 46% of the snaps, which for Zach Ertz is something that previously we'd liked because he's on the field a lot. But the rookie Trey McBride kind of has, I don't know if it's kind of a passing of the torch or what's going on, if they're actually going to start using McBride more, if they plan to trade, whatever the case may be. McBride was out there for 9 more snaps than Zach Ertz this week. He also got 5 targets, but he caught 4 of them for 62 yards. Granted, one of them was at the very end of the game, like a 20-yard pass with 0 seconds left on the clock. So do with that what you will, but he's getting as many targets and more snaps than Zach Ertz. So I don't know if that means I'm interested in Trey McBride or if I just want nothing to do with the tight ends in Arizona.
Yeah.
that I guess it's kind of a wait and see thing for maybe another week. I'm not jumping, I'm not necessarily, I mean, I might drop Zach Ertz because there are better options. I mean, if that's what we're going to get from him, we know we could get the same and more from Jonnu Smith. So I make that pivot. But I'm not jumping to go pick up Trey McBride unless I see another week of him actually out snapping Zach Ertz. But that's really all I got for the Cardinals, if you have anything you want to add.
Yeah, it's just, I think what we saw this game is going to be more of what we see from them without James Conner. In that backfield, there is no solidified number one. You're going to have random weeks where it's Keontae Ingram getting a little more than DeMercado or vice versa. Even Williams getting in the mix. I think he only played like 17% of snaps, but there's a chance, that he could play 35%. It's tough. I don't feel safe starting any of them. DeMercado, the hype behind him was very large, but again, Keontae Ingram was hurt. Now that he's not, we're kind of seeing what that backfield looked like, and it doesn't look that pretty. And then, I mean, even the receivers take a hit when James Conner goes down because now they don't have a real threat on the ground, so you can kind of sit the pass a little more. And I mean, Hollywood's good, don't get me wrong at all. Do I think he's like a bona fide wide receiver 1 in the NFL? No. I think he's like a high-end wide receiver 2, but he's obviously playing the wide receiver 1 on his team. And when your number 2 receiver is a rookie, and Michael Wilson's looked good, again he has, but when your wide receiver 2 is Michael Wilson, and your main tight end is Zach Ertz, who is an absolute legend, but he is towards the end of his leash, it's just tough. It's going to be tough for the Cardinals to put up a lot of points with, the threats they have. I mean, Josh Dobbs is throwing the ball. We've been huge Josh Dobbs supporters, but at some point, there's a reason he's bounced around from team to team. There's no crazy threat on this offense. Hollywood's by far the biggest threat with James Conner being out, but outside of Hollywood, when you're like really breaking it down, he's the only like real threat out there. So it's just tough. And I mean, it's scary for weeks to come. I know James Conner's at least missing 3 more weeks, so I guess we'll just see.
Yeah. And with that, we'll just take it into the Rams side of the ball. We had Matt Stafford. It was disappointing because I had him kind of as my quarterback start of the week going into this week, going up against the Cardinals. The Cardinals kind of got torched by the Niners the week before. The Rams had been passing a lot, and they just couldn't.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but in this game, they had a seriously hard time throwing the ball. But they weren't I don't understand because they weren't really running it in the first half. If you looked at Kyren Williams, if you happen to have Kyren Williams in the first half, you're looking at it like, Jesus Christ, this dude has 0.5 points. And then you look after the game, when the hell did he get 158 rushing yards and a touchdown?
Yeah.
They figured out that, you can run the ball against Arizona. And that's what they did the whole second half. I mean, I think what we really saw in this game was Stafford 15 for 24, 226 and a touchdown, 1 rush for 2 yards, gave you 13.2 points, which, just not going to get it done.
Yeah.
But with the Kyren Williams game, he had 20 attempts for 158 and a touchdown, but he also hurt his ankle. I heard it's a low ankle sprain, but at the same time, it seems they've already ruled him out for week 7. So the severity of it, I don't know yet. He could be out multiple weeks, giving way to guys like Zach Evans, Royce Freeman, and Darrell Henderson, who they just re-added to their practice squad. But that we'll discuss later in the waiver episode. I think the big thing that came out of this game, aside from the running, was we saw the true order in the wide receiver room. It's not going to be a 1A, 1B thing. It is going to be Cooper Kupp is still Cooper Kupp. It's not.
Yeah, he got one more target than Puka. He got 1 more. That's it.
I was unaware that 9 is 1 more than 7.
Oh my God.
But I was unaware that 9 is 1 more than 7.
Go on.
No, but we can go and do that. And I mean, you can go back and look at almost every game and say like, oh, well, this guy only.
It's
I
what
don't
you
think
do
it
with it
matters.
too. No, Cooper Cup's the
It is
obvious
what
number
you do.
one. He's the
And
obvious number one.
I'm not saying every week is going to be 27 points for Cooper Cup and 6 points for Puka, but they're not going to score. It's not going to be level it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be like the AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, every wide receiver, the Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. There is a clear number one and a clear number two, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want everybody to realize that like this hype that was around Puka, when I was saying he was at his peak and I wanted people to trade him then, this is why, because he's never going to see those targets that he saw before again. He's probably not going to have many games where he gets 10 plus targets anymore.
Yeah.
Cooper Cup is back.
Mm-hmm.
He's so, I mean, just moving forward with that is just kind of to temper your expectations of what to get for Puka. This is now in the range of outcomes, which we hadn't seen before. But he's still going to be solid, still a great wide receiver too. But I just, Cooper Cup, 7 for 9, 148 and a touchdown. Puka, 4 for 7, 26 yards.
Yeah.
And you had Tutu Atwell add his 30-yard catch on his one target. So Tutu Atwell, I'm not saying he's done as far as fantasy goes, but
he's out there like 85+% of the snaps. It's just like we said, he's going to be the one that gets, he gets left out.
When shit hits the fan for the Los Angeles Rams, the Cooper Cup is going to be the focus.
Yeah.
When everything's all happy-go-lucky, when it's like the Niners, they're spreading the ball around, this, and that, then everybody's going to eat. But when they need to get first downs, when they need to score, when they need to move the ball, it's going to Cooper Cup. And, I mean, even Higbee was out there 95% of the snaps, 2 catches on 3 targets for 18 yards. It's just reverting back to kind of what we've seen like last year. While, Puka might play that Robert Woods role from 2 years ago, I think it will be that Robert Woods role from 2 years ago. It's not going to. But I still think there is a lot of value in this offense. It will be interesting to see what happens with Williams going down because he has been getting a lot of volume. I don't know that they'll necessarily continue to run the ball the same. They might end up passing more.
Yeah.
They might end up passing a lot more, which in that case, that really could boost Puka back up.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Cooper Kupp's going to end up getting like 12, 13 targets a game until Kyren Williams comes back, but we'll see how that goes. I'm just really shaky on Matt Stafford right now because he's had some great matchups and he just hasn't really done much with it. And I get it when you're not throwing for touchdowns, a lot of the yards feel kind of empty because, it's like 1 point per 25 passing yards. So you throw for a lot, it's not going to get you that much if you're not throwing touchdowns. And thankfully, he didn't have any turnovers this game, but you just see the outcome when they're not scoring as much as we would like them to.
Yeah. No, I don't even have too much to add. I'm not super high on Zach Evans with with Kyren Williams missing time, if he does miss time. I think they will pass the ball more, and that can benefit Puka. I think you put a perfect analogy, the AJ Brown, Devonta Smith. I think that is like perfect. You can have huge Puka games, but also we've seen Devonta Smith against the Rams specifically finish with like 1 catch and 6 yards. I think Puka's like floor will be like honestly probably what we saw this game. It'll be like 3-4 catches, 20 yards.
It's solid, but it's just you have to accept that now that he's not going to be what he was in like those first 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's in the realm of possibilities. And last thing, shout out Tyler Higbee's agent. Got him the bag. He's a mediocre tight end, and he got the bag. So shout out to him.
Yeah. Give me a call, goddamn. But that'll be all for this one, guys. We got a couple games before we get into the Monday night and the waivers and all that, so stay tuned.
Yes, sir.